Good morning, everybody. It's so lovely to see you. Hi. Thanks for joining me when it's actually an hour earlier.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll just give a minute and then I'll start. I forgot to record the last section, which was such a shame. But I have not forgotten to record this. Well, I didn't start yet, but I'm pretty sure it's in my mind. I will do it in 1 minute. I will record the session. Have any of you seen the email for Health Flicks?
Yes.
Please sign up for all of that stuff for the sessions that you want. We only have the first week listed, as you might have seen. But yeah, you want to get on that. So for those of you new to it, HealthFlix is this initiative where we're bringing together leaders in mind-body health to offer free sessions exactly in the format like this one. That's what made me think of it. For 2 weeks. In the first week, it's a soft launch. And we have a bunch of sessions every day. But in the second week, we have 10 to 11 sessions every day on the hour, starting at 8 a.m. with world leaders in mind-body health. And if you get on the Zoom one, you can interact with them, like Dean Ornish, who demonstrated that you can use lifestyle interventions to reverse heart disease. So do look at it. Shall I put it in the chat so you guys can all look at the websites? You can sign up for things. And again, it's 100% free. So, and share it with anybody you know, because our goal is to just help people at home right now, and not just the converted who already do this stuff, but people that don't always do this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to record. Okay. So again, good morning, everybody. For the last couple of sessions, we've been focusing on the role of breathing in strengthening the lungs, and also the role of breathing in reducing stress and enhancing resiliency. And I've been giving a little bit of additional information every morning. And I wanted to read something out that my colleague Amit Bhargava sent to me. He said his brother sent it to him. He's a doctor, and I just think it's really important at this particular time and highlights the need for the work that we're doing on ourselves. So, prehabilitation, quote, a concept which involves simple interventions aimed at rapidly improving a person's health prior to an anticipated upcoming massive stress in the body so they will withstand it better. So in other words, how can we, in this unique situation that we're faced with right now, strengthen our bodies in the heat of this pandemic? The elements of this now include physical conditioning and exercise to build muscle mass and improve heart and lung function, nutritional inputs, so everything you eat, cessation of smoking, tight diabetes control, and breathing and psychological strengthening. There is crucial evidence that even a short burst of 3 to 4 weeks of this reduces surgical complications in those who are at high risk for major surgeries. There's a large body of research that shows that muscle wasting, so your muscles no longer having the same level of mass, and cardiopulmonary deconditioning occurs quickly during reduction in physical activity, which could happen for many of us if we are home and we are not actively engaging in physical activity. So both these impact one's ability to maintain oxygenation in case of lung infection or when on a ventilator. So I'm not going to read the entirety of it, but just to be mindful, therefore, of how important it is for all of us at this time, and of course throughout our lives, to be engaging in mind-body practice and exercise and these kinds of breathing techniques. So what I wanted to focus on this morning was creating space between each and every breath, and also for those of us that are comfortable with it, and it won't be everybody, right? I try to offer variations because there's a lot of us to meet different needs. but for some of us, a bit of breath holding. Now, I want to explain why I've chosen to do this morning. It's not simply because I woke up and thought, ooh, that would be fun to teach. It's based on, again, trying to provide you with enhanced physiological resiliency. So let's talk a little bit about carbon dioxide. We know carbon dioxide is something that we expel on the exhalation. And most of us have an idea that we don't want carbon dioxide levels to get too high in the blood, which is certainly accurate. But actually, carbon dioxide plays a very important role in allowing oxygenation to happen effectively. How is that? Well, carbon dioxide is a vasodilator, meaning it dilates our blood vessels, allowing oxygen to flow, especially to like areas in the extremities or brain more effectively. And if we get rid of too much carbon dioxide, which happens, for example, when we're hyperventilating, we're breathing really rapidly, what happens is we actually limit our oxygen uptake capacity to a minor degree, but still it is notable. So when we take a space after every exhalation, because our cells are constantly synthesizing energy in the form of ATP, where carbon dioxide is a byproduct. Right? So if we take a space where we're allowing still that process of the synthesizing of ATP, where carbon dioxide is being created, to happen while we have a pause, the levels just increase a slight bit, hopefully allowing just a little bit more of vasodilation. But then we meet a different level during a breath hold. So again, our body is incredibly sensitive to carbon dioxide levels because if carbon dioxide was to reach levels that were too high in the blood, it would be dangerous for us. Do not worry, you're not going to breathe your way through breath holding to higher levels of carbon dioxide. But remember, it's always happening, so if you're holding your breath and not expelling it, the levels lift. Now you have this mechanism called the respiratory chemoreflex, and it senses when carbon dioxide levels get higher. And what it does is it tries to make sure that you expel that carbon dioxide. So what do? Like when we exercise. Now, for those of us that are in states of anxiety, where we're creating energy more, and we have therefore a higher level of byproduct of carbon dioxide, we are constantly telling our brain we're stressed out, first off, and secondly, through that carbon dioxide again, we are enhancing the need to exhale quickly. And then again, because remember, we've been talking about the importance of a slow rate and relaxation. So when we exhale quickly to get rid of the carbon dioxide, we are continuing to be on that cycle, creating more carbon dioxide, breathing more rapidly out, and up and up and up we go. But, and research from Luciano Bernardi has been showing this for a number of years, if we can tolerate just a slight increase in carbon dioxide levels, somehow we are more psychologically resilient and we are less likely to go into anxious states quickly. There seems to be some kind of alignment between these two. So as we practice breath holding, not through the day, not through a pattern of breathing all the time, which isn't healthy, but markedly in particular periods, we enhance our capacity to tolerate CO2, and in so doing, we also downgrade our reactivity to it, reducing anxious, reducing anticipatory anxiety and reducing anxious tendencies. That's the word I want. So we're going to start this morning with just taking a pause between each one of the breaths that we can all do. And then for those of us that want to experience what it's like to do the breath holds and constantly build up that tolerance, we can do that piece. So as always, we start with Ujjayi breathing. And for those of you familiar with Ujjayi breathing, I invite you to just engage it now as I teach those of us new to it. So, for those new to Ujjayi breathing, it sounds like this, kind of like the ocean. Just like that. Now, how do we make this unique noise? Well, all of us have probably fogged up glasses or mirror. So if you're new, lift up your imaginary mirror and look at your shiny face this morning. And let's just start on the exhalation. Inhale naturally and just like that. Inhale naturally. Try to keep it really consistent and smooth. The breath one more time. Inhale naturally. Lovely. Release the hand down. And now I'd like you to place, again, if you're new, your hand at the throat. Inhale naturally. And rather than imagining that the breath is coming out of the nose, even though you are breathing out of the nose, not the mouth, I want you to imagine breathing out of the throat. It tends to be easier to do this kind of breathing when we focus on that. So inhale naturally. Brilliant. Inhale naturally. Keeping it very soft and smooth. If it's new to you, it might feel a little awkward, but it will become more comfortable over time. So everybody now is engaging in Ujjayi breath with eyes downcast or closed. For those of you familiar with it, you can be doing it on the inhale and the exhale. And for those of you new, just focus on the exhalation today so that it's not complicated. And we're going to do this for another minute before we start bringing in a little bit of a pause. Okay, now for all of us, we're going to inhale with or without Ujjayi. We're going to all exhale Ujjayi, and then we're going to pause for 2 seconds. And we're going to also capitalize on the skill of elongating the exhalation and its stress relieving benefits that I have talked about in other days when I've done this series. And for those of you who are very familiar with longer breathing, you can inhale for 3 or for 4 and exhale for 8. And then take a pause for 2 seconds. And you can just say in your own mind, pause, pause. And then for those of you who are new, I'm going to actually count you in, inhaling for 2 and exhaling for 4. So a 1-2 ratio for inhale, exhale with a 2-second pause. So let's all begin together. Inhaling, 1, 2. Exhaling Ujjayi, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause, pause. Inhaling, 1, 2. Exhaling Ujjayi, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause, pause. Inhaling Ujjayi, 1, 2. Exhaling Ujjayi, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause, pause. Inhaling, 1, 2. Exhaling Ujjayi, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause, pause. And now I'm going to leave you to count on your own. Again, it can be 2, 4, 3, 6, 4, 8. Probably not higher than 4-8 because that changes the physiological landscape when you breathe at a slower rate than that. And please, all of you, take that 2-second pause and say it in your mind. And I'm just going to talk while you're counting. You're going to hear me in the background. There is an added benefit to this practice, aside from the slight increase in carbon dioxide, allowing for better oxygen delivery at a cellular level. It is, in the midst of mental chaos, we can remind ourselves that there is space between each and every breath. And as we practice in this way and focus our attention in this way, that is made more clear to us. And when our lives are busy, which may be the case for many of you now, and some of you might find yourself less busy than you've been in a long time, but when you are, and you really can't find temporal space, you can remind yourself, between each breath, I can create space. I can find it there. And no matter how busy my life gets, that is always accessible to me in the breath. And we continue now to breathe in this way, creating more space, better oxygen delivery, and real focus of mind, necessary to continue doing this practice breath by breath. And every time your mind gets lost in thought, just come back to the counting and to the pause, bringing it back to the pause, to the stillness between breaths, the stillness between coming and going, the waiting. Now, for many of you, this should be what you continue doing. If you would like to engage in longer holds with me, we'll start with 20 seconds. I invite you to do that. And if it doesn't seem like that's appropriate for you this morning, then please just continue with the practice of pausing, reaping the benefits breath by breath. So what we're going to do is we're going to inhale for those of us who want to do the breath hold. We're going to hold for about 20 seconds. It's important that when you go for breath hold, you don't imagine that you must fill the lungs completely, entirely to the top. Because when you do that, you apply a pressure to the lungs that actually tells the sensory fibers you need to exhale, and it makes it harder to hold the breath. So just take a subtle deep breath. You don't need to fill up the lungs completely. It will be more comfortable without doing that. Right? So for those of us doing a breath hold, let's begin together. Inhale subtly and gently, and hold. And if you need to exhale at any time before I'm done, please go ahead. And exhale. And can you do it long? Can you exhale long? And inhale, return to what you were doing a moment ago. Inhale, exhale, space. We'll do that for about 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and then do another breath hold. And let's do it again. For those of us that want to hold the breath. Inhale subtly, slowly, and hold. We're going to do 20 seconds again. And exhale long. Inhale long. Exhale long. Inhale long. Exhale long. And then again, revert to inhale, exhale, pause. And in 30 seconds, we're going to do a 30-second hold for those of us that would like. So we're going to lift the bar a little bit. I have a stopwatch, so I'm looking at the exact seconds. Okay, and if you'd like to hold the breath for this time, we're going to begin now. Inhale and hold. And the reason we're taking pauses between each one is to let the lungs recover. We're doing it very gently, not pushing it to the edge, holding, relaxing, and then beginning again. And for those of you that prefer not to do it, just continuing with your inhale, exhale pause. And exhale long. Inhale long if you just held your breath. Exhale long. Inhale long. Exhale long. And resume the inhale, exhale pause. We'll do another 30 seconds in 30 seconds. And for those of us that want to hold, inhale and hold. The other thing about holding the breath is the brain is not getting a steady supply of oxygen, and so it is immediately brought to attention. And so if you are having challenging or difficult thoughts, when you hold a breath, you can at least momentarily interrupt that process as your brain starts to focus on something else. Exhale. Inhale long. Exhale long. Inhale long. Exhale long. And resume the breathing. We're going to go up to 45 seconds for those of you that would like to try in a moment. Remember that if you are holding the breath, at any time you can let it out if it feels too intense or uncomfortable. And beginning now, inhale, subtle, slow, long, and hold. And if you are holding the breath, exhale long. Inhale long. Exhale long. Inhale long. Exhale long. And now let's just return to the Ujjayi breath with the inhale. Exhale. Pause. Pause. Where the ratio of the exhale is twice that of the inhale. You can continue to do this kind of practice, slowly building up by starting with pause to hold every morning, creating greater tolerance to CO2 and greater resiliency, and all of the things I talked about. And I'm just going to guide you through a little meditation. And you can actually let go of the counting if you'd like, and the breath control completely if you want to. Or you can do it with the controlling of the breath, with the Ujjayi. Whatever your mind and your body are calling on this morning. Just feel your breath. That life-giving energy coming in and out of the nostrils, in and out of your whole being, descending the diaphragm downward. Just feel you breathing this life energy. And bring the mind to it. As the mind dances to so many other things it believes to be important, bring it back to this source, this constant, vital source of life-giving energy, without which none of us would be here. Become absorbed in it, intrigued by it, enwrapped by it. Each inhale and each exhale of letting go, creating more space, more room for the next breath to enter and to provide life force and energy. And as I said last time, in these challenging moments we're all facing globally right now, and in the challenging moments that are just part of being human, we can always come back to the certainty of the breath, to this forever flow. And as the mind resides there, calm is always accessible. And it may take time for us to train that calm, but we can build it. We can build it. We can train the mind to focus on the breath more and more. To find peace with its natural flow. So that session went so quickly for me. We're about to end this guided portion and have the questions that we always do. But before I say that, just to remind all of you that HealthFlix is online and you can sign up for sessions. And we have wonderful people presenting this week. The chair of the College of Medicine, Michael Dixon, Dean Ornish, Ruby Wax, Charlotte Martinez, who is in charge of teen yoga, if you've heard of it and created it, I'm there, Dr. Satya Khalsa, the preeminent researcher on yoga in the world. So do go ahead and sign up. And for those of you that have been joining the other workshops I'm doing during the week, we have a few spaces left on Monday for breathing, yoga therapy breathing techniques that gives an overview of respiratory physiology, teaches you how to do breath assessments, and to have clarity around what pranayama you may teach. Our Rewiring the Anxious Brain is totally full for this week and almost full for Tuesday the following week, but there's still a few spaces if you want to sign up quickly. Last time I announced it, they filled up while I was talking. And a little longer ones on April 17th is a full day of mental health skills for yoga teachers. And then the anxiety 5-day course that I teach. So there's lots of different stuff going on. Some of it's free, like Health Links, totally free for you. And some of the workshops I'm doing, well, all of them are paid. And I'm going to continue doing these morning sessions. Thank you so much for joining me. And now I'm going to take the floor for any questions you have, and I will do my best to answer them. About breathing, not any questions at all about breathing. So you can put your hand up if you'd like. No questions. Okay, Eunice, go ahead. Good morning, Eunice. You want to unmute yourself, or I can do it?
The foreseeable.
Here you go. Wait, you just came on. You want to go ahead?
You're going to continue the sessions for the foreseeable future, the free ones in the morning?
I am. I might have to make them a little bit later because Netflix starts at 8 a.m. and it's an initiative I founded. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to both be running that and this at exactly the same time. I might have to start earlier or a little bit later during gaps. But yes, and they won't always be on breathing. They're going to be on different things. I had said in my newsletter that this would be the last one on breathing. But then as soon as I sent it, I thought, oh damn, I have so much more to teach about breathing. So I might rescind that. But yes, I will continue for the foreseeable future to do this. Please tell your friends and family and colleagues about it so that they can benefit too. But I'm not sure of the time because it competes with something else I'm doing. But yes, I will continue. That's a very long-winded answer to your question. I'm sorry.
You mentioned don't go beyond 4:8 for the ratio because you said if you go further, it's a different sort of physiological landscape. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
So it's not necessarily going to be a different physiological landscape for everybody, but it can be. Because when you're breathing in 4/8, right, each cycle of breathing is 12 seconds. And if you divide 12 by 60, that's 5 breaths per minute. Now, when you go lower than that to about 4 breaths a minute or 3 breaths a minute, and especially with the elongation of the exhalation, you lower the blood pressure quite significantly. And two things can either happen. You can, if you've been training yourself for a while, start to answer kind of like absorption and trance states, which I don't want us to do where I'm just on a computer and can't be there on the other end. Or for those of us newer to it that somehow have access to that capacity, because the blood pressure lowers quite a bit at like 5, 10, 6, 12, as we do that repeatedly, we can have this reverse mechanism that actually heightens it. It's called our barrel reflex. And generally we think of it in relationship to lowering blood pressure, but when blood pressure gets too low, it goes high. So that was the reason, Eunice. And it's not a guarantee anybody would have that, but as I'm working with more than 100 people online, I just want to keep everyone on the same page. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, so if I normally do it longer, it's okay?
Yes, especially if you have training in doing it, and especially if it's supporting you and going into meditation, etc. That's fine. I just didn't want to bring it into here because I'm trying to do something specific. Yeah, my pleasure. Okay. Bernie Sheehan. I always try to pronounce names correctly and apologize if I don't.
That's
Bernie?
Okay. Hi, it's Bernie Sheehan. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I noticed my body really warmed up when I was doing that practice. I've got a bit of a cold this weekend and I'm actually in my dressing gown and I was breathing there and I noticed that my hands particularly, I noticed became warmer and my body temperature's gone up. Can you explain the reasoning behind that?
Well, we all respond differently. So I can't say this is exactly why it happened for you. But I can say this. When you allow the vasodilation of the small blood vessels, especially the capillaries, which are only going to dilate a little bit though, you do have, first of all, more blood flow, which is going to heat up your hands a little bit, and again, better oxygen delivery to those extremities as well. So that is likely to be one of the reasons that you are experiencing that heat, especially in the extremities. For the body at large, if you have a cold, and were you doing the Ujjayi breath?
Yes, I was. Yes, sorry, I nodded there.
Yeah, especially, so you're going to be much more sensitive to that slight increase in heat as well. And if you have a cold and you're finding it a bit niggly when you do the Ujjayi breath, you might let go of it so that it doesn't feel uncomfortably hot.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure, thanks. Julie Keebler? Julie?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I was just wondering if the breath holds are contraindicated in either low blood pressure or high blood pressure.
I would say more that breath holds can be contraindicated in high blood pressure, definitely. Now, in yoga, we spend quite a lot of time talking about all of the risks of high blood pressure, and it's so important to be aware of that. But remember that most people that have high blood pressure and know they have high blood pressure are probably, and we hope, being medicated for it, which takes down the likelihood of it being dangerous. But yes, we should always err on the side of caution. I am not concerned about breath holds and low blood pressure.
So the breath holds that we were doing up to the 45 seconds a minute, would you sort of advise against anyone who had blood pressure, medicated or otherwise?
For safety, yes. I mean, we do very specific things at the Minded Institute to be able to monitor. So if we're concerned about somebody with high blood pressure, we actually will have them use a monitoring class. And if it's something critical, we might even be speaking to their doctor and asking their doctor at what level we don't want the blood pressure to elevate beyond. And that way we can really modulate it. But in lieu of that, and then we can say, okay, you can experience this practice and try, oh, your blood pressure just went up beyond this little number that we've chosen, you may not do it. But as safety for all of you, I would say yes. There's no reason, when there are so many different yoga practices to offer, that you need to include that one for somebody where it could potentially be a risk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Michael Hutchinson, hello. It's always nice to hear from you. Do you want to share?
Well, first of all, thanks for all your talks and all this information. I'll go on YouTube to pick up some of the things I didn't quite catch. I was going to share something about teaching people with high blood pressure.
Go ahead.
As you know, the issue with someone having constantly elevated blood pressure is a 24/7 thing. And there will be ups, there will be sort of excursions during their normal day. And so while we do need to be aware, and while we hope that people are medicated, we don't need to be over anxious about a slight increase in blood pressure while they're doing a breathing exercise. Because as you said in the previous talk, I think, there will be a tendency for a counter reaction, and the blood pressure will then drop for some time afterwards, and be doing more good.
Michael,
Yes.
because I think it's really important here for safety issue. The moment by moment changes in blood pressure are different than somebody being diagnosed with hypertension, and often that may involve wearing a regular monitor. So yes, all of our blood pressure can go up at different times. Whether we're anxious, we're exercising, we're doing asana, but I don't want to confuse that for people who actually have increased blood pressure as a chronic condition, hypertension. And I think it's important that we keep a very clear line.
Understood.
Yeah, but thank you. Are there any other questions, or are you ready to go about your merry day? No? You can take yourself off mute if you don't know how to raise your hand, because some people know how to raise their hand on the screen. I can see little blue hands, but if not, you can just go ahead and take yourself off mute for a second and ask me a question. Jane, it looks like you did that. Hi, Jane.
Hi. Listen, it's a quick question about one of my clients who's got incredibly high anxiety, and she's stuck here in India with 2 kids, so it's even off the radar. I did a breathing assessment on her, and her breath is so shallow I could barely see in or out. She's a very experienced yogi, very athletic, but she said, and I've been doing some coherent breathing with her, and I was trying to get her to do elongated exhale, and it sends her, and she says she can't do it. She can much do longer inhales than exhales. So I continued the coherent. I was just wondering, because I was doing Durga breath with her, and I was wondering if reverse Durga, so doing it on the exhale, would be beneficial for her.
First of all, everybody, Jane is one of my soon-to-be graduates, so she's talking a little bit of shop with me. She trained with me for years. Yeah, it's okay. That's fine. Yeah, Jane, actually, I think you're right on the money. That and just slow breathing. So trust yourself. You're doing well. And it's really nice to hear your voice. That will enhance her ability to control her exhalation. And constantly just looking at innovative ways to work with her, that's exactly what I would want you to do.
Great. Yeah, I'm doing some joint freeing too, because she's been really, really sick. So not to encourage the exhale, just to do it on the Durga, just do it, continue coherent.
But don't do too much joint freeing when she's sick, if she has any kind of fever, because the joint...
No, she's just recovering, and we're just building on her strength at the moment.
Okay, because you know the joints can become inflamed. Okay, great, Jane. Yeah. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you for this. It's great.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Megan, I think you have the last question.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for this. It's been wonderful.
My pleasure.
I wonder if you could comment on the Wim Hof and that kind of breathing method. It's so kind of trendy right now, and I just wanted to know your thoughts, and perhaps it's not the right forum for it, and I apologize if it's not.
Well, I'll say this. I do it. I love that technique. I think it offers loads of value. So if you're not familiar with Wim Hof's breathing technique, it involves inhaling very rapidly and forcefully into the mouth throughout the body, followed by these long periods of holding the breath out before you breathe in again. Now, I think that Wim Hof's techniques are incredibly beneficial for people who are already healthy, or, you know, maybe not at the peak of their health, but are not at a risk for a cardiovascular condition or neurological condition, or possibly in chronic pain. It can be helpful, but you have to be very delicate. One of the benefits, and this, you know, I talk about these kinds of things when I do my whole day of rewiring the brain through yoga. One of the real benefits that I perceive from his practice is when you breathe at that very rapid rate and in that way, you increase levels of a neurotransmitter in the brain called glutamate. And glutamate causes excitation, but also, when released at very high levels, provides the capacity for very quick relinking of circuitry.
She's happy doing it.
Hello? Jane, you haven't muted yourself.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
That's okay. The increased levels of glutamate at that high breathing rate allow for new kinds of circuitry between neurons. So it really allows for people to develop new patterns. And there's also something about breathing like that, and then afterwards holding the breath, and then breathing like that again, that theoretically is adding to vascular flexibility within the brain. So I really love that method. Sorry for the scratching, that's my dog. But I don't think it's appropriate for people with health conditions. I know Wim often teaches it, but I would think there's so many other useful techniques, and that one can be risky.
Okay, thank you so much.
My pleasure. So everybody, I'll see you again. I look out because I have to figure out what day I'm going to do the next session because we also have health flicks going on, but I will send a newsletter around and on social media, and I hope to see you again. And much love to you. Happy Sunday. Take care. I'll take you off mute for a second if you, you muted yourself. You can come off, I think.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Farewell.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
I'm going to end the meeting now.
Thank you so much.